you. What could be the solution of it, right? And then understand the domain. Because sometimes what it is needed to solve the problem is to understand the particular domain from which that particular problem has raised. Understand the domain, understand the problem, and then go on solving it, right? What could be the outcome of it? So most importantly, when you think that you are able to solve this particular problem, we are expecting you to give us a document. We are going to discuss it, but I will not stop here. I'm just sharing my screen so that we will reach to the problem statement. Once we discuss the problem statement, then I'm going to discuss how it will look like. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. Everyone can see it, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the first problem is from health domain, right? So have you ever observed, generally this problem is dedicated to patient health data capture, monitor, tracking and retention of the things, right? So if you have observed, most of the times what happens is that many times a patient visited to a doctor, huh? Doctor tries to record his data, but then the patient may be dropped because of poor communication, right? Why the poor communication is? Because the contract research organization is not so keen in deciding the patient's tracking. It may be possible that the patient visits XYZ doctor, maybe he is having not full money, or maybe he finds some other doctor, or maybe he is not very reluctant in coming. We don't know what might be the ratio, but the dropout ratio is found to be a bigger one. So can we design any such mechanism with which we can not only capture the patient's data, but we can monitor, we can track, and we can retain our patient as an important customer, right? What happens is that in real life, we may not keep track of the patient. The doctors and the entire hospital management is so busy in doing their own task, in attending their own patient, that if a particular patient is dropped out, they don't bother, right? So what we need to do, we need to design any such mechanism. I'm not saying system, huh? Any such mechanism with which these things can be possible. You can imagine, suppose I have given pills for 3 days. So after 3 days, when the patient is reaching me for the follow-up, then and then only I get to know whether he has taken the pills on time or not. Can this be more better? So this is our problem. We want to retain the patient, and this retention is having thorough attention. We are required to monitor and track the patient, right? How you will be solving it, it would be entirely your choice, right? Then our second problem talks about the agri domain, right? This particular problem is from agri tech, right? What happens is that many times you might have observed it, that the watering to the plants depends upon whether there is rain or not. And unfortunately, we don't have any good mechanism with which we can predict out that whether there would be rains today or not. So what is my problem? My problem is that if I could give a village geography as an input, can you determine the capacity of the village, drainage capacity of the village in terms of how much water it can absorb? What is the maximum rainfall that the village can accept without causing any kind of waterlogging to the farmlands? Can we design such mechanism, right? So here the guidelines given may be just as a sort of guidelines. You can have your own way of looking at this problem, and you can have your own way of solving this problem, right? But here, as we mentioned, that village geography can be an input. So these are just example that village geography input can be a digital evaluation model, it can be a raster mechanism, it can be a farm boundaries as a polygon, but some kind of input should be given so that I could decide that how much I am required to see. Huh? And that is the reason we have mentioned that village geography can be an input. So there are some ready-made files if you are going for a uh, pseudocode or something like that. There can be ready-made libraries available, PostGIS, QGIS, something like that. These tools can become handy. But we are not suggesting that you should use it. You can use your own way, you can use your own mechanism. Our problem is that we have to understand, without causing any water damage, can we save the farmlands, right? We don't want the water logging to happen in the farmlands. So what could be done? Can we improvise the drainage capacity? Can we manage the already existing drainage management mechanism? This is our problem, right? So this is the agri domain, and the last one was a consumer tech, right? So here what we are expecting, here we are expecting you to design any such mechanism with which we can help consumers in deciding the planning or execution of a trip or a tour in an effective, economical and reliable way. What do you mean by that? Sometimes you might have observed that you visit a particular city, maybe, and you don't know which route you are supposed to follow. You have to cover, suppose, 4 sightseeings on that particular day. So what could be the order? Whether XYZ should be covered first or whether PQR should be covered first. There are timing constraints, right? If it is a temple, then it is going to be closed by 1 o'clock. So how you are going to manage this particular tour? If it is a lunch hours during that, where we can plan our lunch, all these things must be planned effectively, at the same time economically, and at the same time in a reliable way. It should not happen that I started from some point, reached to other point, and then someone might have suggested, "Arey, why you don't visit that particular spot? It was on the way." But we were not aware. We were new to that town. We were new to that city, and few things might have missed. So what is your requirement? You have to design any such mechanism. Once again, I'm not saying it may be a computer system or it may be what. You have to think of the solutions, right? So it may be even a business scenario, right? You can tackle on different things, like people can invest. I'm a restaurant owner and I can say, "Okay, sir, why don't you include me in your plan?" So anything can be thought of, but we want the solution to be in a very economical, efficient way, right? So this was our third problem. And as I told you, you are free to choose any particular problem domain, right? And you will be having 36 hours to discuss this. So you can discuss it with your team. You can try exploring the problem domains. You can try understanding what the problem is, and then you can give a thought about which one is more appealing to you, right? Before going to the next slide, let me take a pause and ask you, do we have any problem? Is there something which you want me to explore more, or which you want me to tell more about?
No, sir, no question.
No questions, right? While we are discussing it, as I told you, our team might be mailing you this particular problem statements so that you can have it in a handy mode. And if it's always okay, huh? We are always open here after even by tomorrow
Hello,
evening at any
hello,
point of
sir.
time. If you
Hello,
find that there are some difficulties, there are some
hello,
there are few things which you want me to put a light on, so you
hello.
can definitely ask for the same,
Yes.
right? Okay, so
Uh,
the
Tushar
next
sir.
thing is that what we expect from our participant. Huh? So as we discussed, when you think that yeah, I'm more suitable for this particular problem domain, and thereafter you have to give us a detailed business requirement document, right? We are looking at as if it is a business perspective. We are looking as there should be some kind of a business logic involved in it. So when you would be giving us a problem solution, that problem solution must consist of the business requirement document, right? If you are going for designing a app or website, maybe in a final stage or maybe in a second stage, but at that moment, if it is so, then you have to produce us the SRS, software requirement specification, right? So everything has to be mentioned in that particular way, right? If you are not very good at software specifications, you can give us a workflow diagrams, right? So what would be the flow, how the things would move on, you can mention that. You can give us a architecture or a layout. Of course, you can design a wireframes or a strawman for end-to-end system. Any way which helps us to communicate or which helps us to understand how you are solving the problem is acceptable. What would be the type of the file? It can be anything. Huh? It can be a Word file, it can be a PDF, it can be a PowerPoint presentation, it can be anything, right? So don't worry about what could be the problem statement or something like that. Huh? So, but try to cover the points which would be appealing, which would be convincing, and which helps your evaluator to understand how you are solving the problem, right? We don't want you to write an essay, a multi-page document where you are writing paragraph after paragraph and all those things. This is not required. But if you put it in this particular detailed manner, then it would help us to understand how the things should be going on. Just give me a second. So that will help the evaluation panel to understand what exactly you are about to say, right? So that is our intention, and that's why we have suggested the multiple ways, right? So if it is a business requirement document, just by looking at the document one can understand how you look at this particular problem statement. If you got a wireframes or a strawman structures, then we understand that how you are able to give a flow to your skills, right? So that is the thing that we haven't given any kind of a template. Rather, we want you to choose any mechanism which suits more better to you, right? Any questions? Any kind of a mechanism which only help us to understand that, look, the problem is that you are having something in your mind, and no, there is a no limit for the number of documents, but it would be very appreciated if you combine the things in a single document. Huh? There is a no restriction on a number of pages or something like that. But what happens is that, excuse me, what happens is that if you go on discussing the problem in a lengthy way, then it will not, what do we say, appealing. The reason behind this is your evaluator has a maybe a little less amount of time or something like that. We are not very pretty sure about it. But what happens is that a flow diagram generally entirely exhibits the entire scenario, right? Architecture will give an entire detailing about the system. And once he finds, "Arey, this is something which is really appealing me," then people may take a trouble to revisit the entire document. Are you with me? Like generally we say कि a picture talks more than the thousand words. In a similar fashion, if you have a very good representation of your mechanism, then people may take efforts to reach and read out the entire document. So make sure that you would make you have to convince your evaluators, right? The evaluators are neither from my domain nor from your domain. We are hiring some other people so that it would be a non-biased evaluation mechanism, right? Can we make changes in the existing system? Yes, you can, right? So if the system is your own system, huh, or to that matter you do really understand the system, or you got the capability to design the system, or you have the ownership of that particular system, it's always okay to suggest some changes into it. The deadline for submitting the proposal is tomorrow Sunday up to 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Right? So we are giving you 36 hours. Today it would be starting at a 10 o'clock till Sunday 10 o'clock a.m. and then 10 o'clock p.m. So we will be giving you 36 hours. So 36 hours is a well good amount of a time where you can see that you can explore the domain, you can explore the problem, and you can design the problem in a better way. Right? Is there any limit to our imagination in this? No, there should not be. Unless and until your imagination should be a feasible one, should be practical one, and I could see any business logic in it. Right? Do you understand? Suppose you are designing any system, but that particular system is of no use to the society, then it has a typically less value. As an individual, I can see like that. Of course, the evaluator has their own parameters, but what I could see is that suppose I'm writing a software, but if I'm seeing that the software is of no use to the normal persons, or it is of no use of somebody, then that software has a zero value. So when you are putting up your imagination, we expect that that particular solution must have some business value. It should be commercialized. That is what we want. The ultimate motto of our this particular mechanism is that we want you to see as a entrepreneur. We want you to see you as a problem solver, right? So that is the thing which we were looking at. Okay. Then how you will be evaluated? So there are multiple parameters on the basis of which you could be evaluated, like the quality of your idea, how imaginative, how ingenious, how creative your idea is, how original your idea is. So there should be some novelty in the idea. If you are getting the same old ideas, then it may be having a little appeal to the evaluator. That's what I think, right? Then implementation of the idea. Do you got any plan that how you will implement that idea? What you are thinking of? What are the different features your solution may provide? The mechanism which you would be designing for the existing problem, what different type of features that particular idea implementation will have, how it would solve the given problem in a better way. That is what we are looking at. Then what is the potential impact of your solution? right? That is the most important thing. If you design the idea and that idea is well worth to impact others, then definitely it has a very good potential, right? It must have some business value, as we discussed, and most importantly, the idea must have carrying some usefulness in it, huh? So that idea must be taken over a long generation, long period of a time. Its usefulness must be carried over through every individual of the society. That is what we are expecting. And of course, business value, as we discussed, parameters, and most scalability. Importantly, we have designed the system, idea must have, it can be taken carrying for a group of a people, so it won't be that worth. If that particular thing can be extendable, then it is appreciated. Sustainable, whether your problem can sustain for any kind of the solution, any kind of a scenario, then it becomes business value, as we discussed, right? So these would be few parameters on whether there is 10 p.m. be evaluated, right? So it won't be that I guess that you understand what we are expecting from you, and still, if you got any question, you can ask, open up. It's okay to unmute yourself and come up with the problem or query, whatever you are having.
Sir, it was disconnected at the start.
Uh-huh.
So, can you discuss problems again with us? Because we were trying to join again, but it wasn't happened.
Okay, I can discuss it, but at the same time, I must assure you that we are even mailing you the problem statement, so it would be with you for entire 2 days, right? So what we were looking at the problems were, the first problem was from health tech domain. Huh? So generally, what we see is that what happens is that when we are going for a clinical trial, multiple patients, thousands of patients do register as a participant, but the success of the trial depends on how much timely and accurate data can be provided by the patient on a voluntary basis. So वो जो होता है ना, आप उससे कहते हो कि मराठी में कहते हैं कि शिबिर, हाँ, so you arrange a particular camp where many people are invited, like a I camp or something like that, and people comes with different problems. But if the particular data is not monitored well, the dropout ratio is very good. And this is not only applicable to camp, it can be even seen to the various hospital mechanisms, hospital chains, that patient visits the particular doctor. Then what happens is that due to this or that reason, it is found that the patient is not continuing with its treatment. And we don't know whether the patient is cured, whether he is not interested, whether he finds some other doctor. We are not very sure. So can we design any such mechanism with which we can capture the patient data, we can monitor and track the status of the patient, and somehow we could retain our patient in a better way, right? So this is what we are expecting from you. You have to design any such mechanism with which this retention of the patient must be go on well manner, right? So it can cover any aspects, like whether the patient is taking his medicines on a time or not. So you can give a reminder systems, you can whatever is needed to do, you can do that. But we want our patient should be retained. He should feel special, and we must have timely data to monitor the patient. That is what we expect in this health tech domain. The second domain was agri-tech domain. So what happens is that we know that every land is a different kind of a land, and the capacity of absorbing water for every land is found to be different. So if we provide the village geography as an input, can we determine the capacity of a drainage capacity of the village Is it possible? Can we determine how much maximum rainfall in a day can be accepted by your farmland? We don't want the water to log somewhere. Otherwise, our entire crop will be going on. Right? So you need to design any such mechanism with which we can manipulate, or with which we can understand what is the absorbing capacity, what is the drainage capacity of the particular farmland. Right? And the third one was a consumer take. This particular is having a typical case study. What we find is that we want you to design any such mechanism with which we can help consumers to arrange, plan and execute their trip and tour in an effective, economical and reliable way. Right? This is happening multiple times. You visit a particular city, suppose you come to Pune, and you are having the list of things to do. Like you want to visit Shaniwar Wada, you want to visit Dagdushet Ganpati. So you are having thousands of things to do. But what would be the best order to do that? Whether I should visit this first or that first? If it is some lunch time, so where I can have a lunch, where I can stay, all such suggestions, all such mechanisms, whatever you want to do, that will help me as a consumer to manage my tour. And that management should be in an efficient way. When I'm moving on a particular road, it should not be happening that I missed a particular spot. So design it in such a way that it could help me in planning as well as in execution of my trip. Right? So these were our three problems, and as I told you, you are free to use any kind of, you can choose any one of the problem statement.
Sir, we need only prototype, na? We don't want actual application or software.
At this moment, we don't want the application or software. No. At this moment, we are expecting you only things like business requirement document, SRS document, or workflow diagram, or a layout of the system, or wireframes. Excuse me. For example, if you are capable of designing a system, if you can write a software. So at this moment, we don't want you to design a software, but in a Paint, you can draw boxes, you can design screens, you can show us the flow. This is login page. After login page, it will ask this input, it will go like this. Some way you can manipulate us, some way you can give us the entire view how our mechanism will flow. Right? So that could be done.
Yes, sir.
Can we contribute with only one problem set? Yes. You are not allowed to choose two proposals. You decide which one is more suitable for you, and you have to take only one problem statement. It may be possible that I'm having a little doubt or no doubt that you are capable of solving all the three problems, but that is not going to work. You have to solve only one problem solution, right? And as I told you, still if you got any kind of a doubt, you can ask, you can call me in entire time period. आज दिन भर में भी कभी फोन कर सकते हो. It is not an issue. Does somebody has any more doubt? Anything which you want me to explain? Which you are not clear with, maybe the evaluation mechanism, maybe the problem statement, anything you can ask. Where to submit the problem solution? Yes. The thing is that we will be giving you, excuse me, we will be giving you a link to upload your problem statement, right? So there would be things like your name, there would be upload button to upload your document, and there would be a drop down menu where you have to select of which particular track you have selected the problem. So if it is a health tech, then you have to take the health tech and then upload something like that. So please explain the health and agri one in a Hindi. Okay. So होता यूं है कि जब हम डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं तो बहुत बार कैसे होता है कि डॉक्टर से पहली मुलाकात तो अच्छी हो लेती है, लेकिन बाद में हम डॉक्टर कंटिन्यू नहीं करते. शायद हमें उससे बेहतर डॉक्टर मिल जाता है, या फिर हमारे पास पैसे नहीं होते इसलिए हम कंटिन्यू नहीं करते हैं, या फिर और भी कई वजह होती है जिसकी वजह से हम पेशेंट को ट्रैक नहीं कर पाते. इवन दो अगर हमारे पास पेशेंट फॉलोअप के लिए आता है तो वो फॉलोअप तक आने तक हमें ये पता नहीं होता है कि उसने हमारे पूरी दवाइयां खा ली है या नहीं. whether he is continuing with our medicines or not, we are not pretty sure. Most of the times what happens is that कि गांव में ऐसे कैंप ऑर्गेनाइज होता है कि आंखों का इलाज करवाने के लिए कैंप होता है, तो 100, 200, 500, 1000 लोग अपने आप को वहां रजिस्टर तो करवाते हैं, लेकिन डेटा पूरा ना होने की वजह से बहुत सी बातें छूट जाती हैं. जैसे मैंने रजिस्टर किया उस कैंप के लिए कि मुझे भी आना है, लेकिन मेरा प्रॉब्लम क्या है, मुझे आंखों के डॉक्टर को दिखाना है, लेकिन क्यों दिखाना है, ये कहीं तो भी वो ट्रैक छूट जाता है. इफ इट इज अ सर्जरी तो ऑपरेशन है तो मुझे पहले बतलाना पड़ेगा. सो ये जो सारी बातें हैं, पेशेंट का डेटा, पेशेंट का मॉनिटरिंग, और वो पेशेंट मेरी तरफ से जब तक क्योर नहीं हो जाता तब तक मेरे साथ संपर्क बनाए रखे, ये नहीं होता है. तो इसके लिए आपको कुछ मैकेनिज्म इन्वेंट करना है, आपको कुछ मैकेनिज्म सजेस्ट करना है कि जिसकी वजह से मैं ये कर पाऊं. राइट. दूसरा था एग्रीटेक, जिसमें हमने ये देखा कि बारिश बहुत हो जाती है, लेकिन हर एक गांव का बारिश का एक्सेप्टेंस का मैकेनिज्म अलग होता है. जैसे अगर मैं समुद्र किनारे रहता हूं तो वहां पे कैसा है, हाई टाइड है या लो टाइड है, इसके अकॉर्डिंगली कितना पानी गांव में भरेगा, कितना बह जाएगा, ये डिसाइड होता है. अगर मैं कहीं सूखे एरिया में रहता हूं, विदर्भ, मराठवाड़ा, समथिंग लाइक दैट, तो वहां पे पानी की ग्रहण क्षमता डिफरेंट होती है. सो व्हाट आई एम इंटरेस्टेड इन नोइंग इज दैट गांव में कहीं भी पानी ना भरे, तो उसके लिए हमें गांव का ड्रेनेज मैकेनिज्म के बारे में, बेटर करने के बारे में सोचना होगा. क्या हम ऐसा कुछ मैकेनिज्म ला सकते हैं कि जिसकी वजह से ये मुझे पता चले कि दिन में इतना ही पानी मेरा गांव एक्सेप्ट कर सकता है, उससे ज्यादा बारिश हुई तो मेरे फसल बर्बाद होंगे. कैन यू सजेस्ट सच मैकेनिज्म? ये था हमारा प्रॉब्लम. Would it be possible to take up and solve a problem not in a given problem statement? No. As we are restricting our participants to solve only in the range of these 3 problems. We are having another event last month. It was called as innovation, where you can come up with your own idea and solve any idea of your choice. But here in a hackathon event, it is restricted that you have to solve only within these 3 problems. Can we update a solution before deadline? I guess you should wait. You could update it. That is not a problem. But what happens is that if you are going for more than 3-4 drafts, it doesn't look good. So you take a pause. Just think that is it a complete solution? Have I done it in a better way? And if you are a little satisfied, then only upload the solution. But are we accepting multiple solutions? The answer is yes. You can refine, you can update your solution before deadline. That is possible. Can we change our problem sector interest now, which is not mentioned? Yes, that is the reason why we haven't asked you the problems or problem domain in the earliest, because we were knowing the things it may be possible that I'm interested in an agri domain, but the consumer domain this time is appealing me more. So it's always okay to change the domain. And that is the reason while registering yourself, we haven't asked you what particular domain you are interested in. You can choose any domain which is interested to you. So for now, we just have to submit a PDF of a summary of a system, not the system. Yes. And if your idea is appeal, then our results will be out on 28th February, and then we will be giving you 12 more days where you have to go with a little briefing, with a little more implementation details, with a little more pseudocode and all those things. And there, instead of a document, you will be evaluated personally. You have to give the presentation. You have to face a panel of judges. They will ask you some questions. So there you were required to design the system. At this moment, it is not. It is like a proposal and then the system. It would be like that mechanism. Sir, from the healthcare part, do we have to design the system for mass clinical trials for vaccines, medicines, or the local level hospitals or healthcare systems? It is advisable that you go for a mass clinical trials. That is what we are interested in. But it is even okay if you design it for the local level hospital. But what would be more addressing the mass clinical trials, right? And this is particularly considering the pandemic scenario, right? So we are not pretty sure that everyone is vaccinated or not. So that is more appealing if you design it for the mass clinical trials. Anything else? Check whether you got the mail. अगर नहीं मिलता है तो please revert us back on a group or something like that. Even on a group, I will send you the PDF file so that you can have it with you. Minimal requirement means it should be a detailed proposal plan, right? So there should not be any step which doesn't let us understand that whether you got the entire problem as a problem, right? What happens is that while designing your proposal, if you missed some step, if you missed some statements, then what may be possible? The evaluator might think you don't proposal. Your SRS document should be from the problem statement to maintenance. Everything, if you try to accommodate in it, then it would be a complete solution. Right? Sir, if we are taking the tour one, then if we are developing an app or website, then do we have to the windows of the app while the client selects the destination and all? Yes, if you are designing a software, then you can suggest such thing, what could be the input? If it is a Pune, from where he is entering, whether from Satara road or Mumbai road or Nagar road, depending upon that you can design the tool. Excuse me. It would be entire your imagination how you will cater the services to the consumer, right? So you can define, design, imagine in your own perspective. What happens is that if I try to give you the input, then your ideas will not flow in the natural capacity, right? So if there any problem, how we can contact you? You got my number on the group, or you can even communicate us on the WhatsApp. That is not an issue. Uh, Pawan, I will give you my number. You can ping me so that I could add you on the group. And most of the times, what may happen is that this particular mail ID, hackathon at ferguson.edu, most of the mailing mechanism addresses this particular ID as a spam. So just check once whether your mail has gone to the spam folder. Generally, this does happen because it is not named. If it is named as Tushar.Deshmukh, then it doesn't go to spam. But hackathon at something, so generally it considers it's a kind of a advertisement or something like that, and that is the reason the mail may go to spam or promotions or something like that. Just check that, and if you don't get the mail, you can revert us, or in spite of that fact, at the end of this session I'm putting the problem PDF on the group. Even you can see there also. That is not an issue. Okay. सो एक बार स्पैम में प्रमोशन में चेक करो, फिर भी नहीं मिलता है तो ग्रुप में आपका आईडी पोस्ट करो, वी विल सेंड यू द मेल. वैसे भी मैं ग्रुप पे भी वो पीडीएफ डालने वाला हूं, सो दैट इज नॉट एन इश्यू. You can ping me on the number given in the chat, 9822838138. I will add you in the group. Thank you, Sayed.
So we can ask any doubt throughout the day, right?
Yeah, that is not an issue.
Okay, sir.
So that's it, guys. All the best from Team Hackathon. And we are damn sure that you would change the world by your innovative ideas. Right? All the best. And
Thank you, sir.
and we will be sending you the link to upload your PPT by the evening. Right? Okay. I'm done. If you got any questions, you can ask, or if you have no questions, it's okay to leave the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.